Welcome to Law Talk with Mr. Mig. Some of you might know me from my other YouTube channel, Mr. Mig's Classroom, where I taught about personal finance, computer science, and most importantly, drone technology. I was a high school teacher for 8 years where I taught those subjects at public schools. But then a few years ago, I decided to go to law school. During law school, I learned a lot about the law, and as a teacher, I love to learn. And I have a passion for sharing what I learned with the world. That's why I originally created Mr. Mig's Classroom. And that's why I decided to create this new YouTube channel. So we together can discuss the law, so we can discuss legal issues. Now I want to be clear, I'm not a lawyer. I'll finish law school in May of 2026 and I'll take the bar in July of 2026. However, even after I become a lawyer, the purpose of this channel is not to provide legal advice. I'm not going to discuss any specific legal issues or any specific cases that you might be facing. I'm here for educational purposes. Now, we'll talk about cases, but from an educational and hypothetical standpoint. We'll talk about laws and real cases, but always as a discussion amongst us, just like I used to do in my classroom. As a teacher, I was never the teacher who just taught and expected the students to just listen and never speak. I wanted a discussion, and that's what I did. And that's what I'm here to do on Law Talk. When you hear me talk about a case or a law or a hypothetical, I want you to write it in the comments section. What did you think about that case? If you were the judge, how would you have decided on it? How would you change the law? How would you have wrote the law? How do you think it should be applied? I want to hear from you. I want this to be a discussion from all the people who watch Law Talk. I'm going to break my videos into 3 main categories. The first category of videos is going to be what we commonly call laws, right? When we typically say a law, we're usually talking about bills passed by the United States Congress and signed by the President, or state legislation, state statutes passed by the state legislature and signed by the governor. That will be the first category of videos we'll discuss. And my next video to come on this channel will specifically be about non-compete competitions and legislation that affects non-competes. The next category of videos I'll discuss is case law. Now, like I said, most of the time when we say laws, we're usually thinking of things passed by Congress and signed by either the governor or president. However, in the legal world, case law is what prevails. See, we live in a common law system, and that essentially means judge-made law. And so when a higher court, let's say the United States Supreme Court, when they make a decision, that is binding precedent. It's law. It's the law of the land for all the courts below it. And as the Supreme Court, all other courts are below it. So it becomes the law of the land. It's the same when a state Supreme Court makes a decision. All the other courts in the state have to follow that decision. They're bound by it. So therefore, that decision becomes case law. And in law school, probably more than 90% of what we talk about is actually case law. It's judge-made law. That's the vast majority of what we discuss and what we learn in law school. And when lawyers try to persuade a judge or when they're arguing a case in front of a judge, they're almost always using other case law, not just as persuasive evidence, though it happens, or persuasive, a way to persuade the judge, though that happens sometimes too, but also because it's the law of the land. When a Supreme Court of a state makes a decision, it binds that lower court, and the lawyers want to make sure the judge knows about that. The third category of videos I'll have are the really fun ones. Those are the what-ifs. Now, like I said, I read a lot of cases in law school, like hundreds and hundreds of cases. And over the years, I made sure to, put little bookmarks on them. This way I could find them later. This way we could discuss them together. Some of those cases I'll read and I'll ask you your opinion. But in a lot of those cases, you might have what-if questions. And I want to hear your what-if questions. Write them in the comments below. Tell me what you think about the case. And if you come up with a hypothetical and you want to ask, well, what would happen in this situation? Or what would happen if someone buys a house and later they find out there was gold in between the drywall, in the walls? that they didn't know about, that no one knew about when they bought the house? Does it belong to the buyer, the now owner of the house, or does it belong to the person who sold it to them? Because maybe it was, the person who sold it to them were the descendants of someone who stored it in there. So we'll talk about hypotheticals like that. And any hypotheticals you have, put them into the comment section and I'll make a video about it. Again, I'm not providing legal advice. That's not the purpose of this channel. The purpose of this channel is like everything I do. It's fun and education. Like I said, I love to learn. I was a teacher because I love to learn and I have a passion for learning, and I'm here to share what I learned in law school with you. Now, my next video is going to be, like I said, about a state law, a state statute, right? Not the case law, but the actual laws passed by Congress. And it's about non-compete competitions. So the first video that I'm going to do is going to be about non-compete competition or non-compete agreements and restrictive covenants as a whole. And then I'm going to get into a new Florida law called the Choice Act that has a major impact on non-compete agreements in the state of Florida. So if you have some questions about non-competes or about restrictive covenants, again, put them in the comment section. I love reading your comments. With Mr. Mig's Classroom, nothing brought me more joy when I would read all the awesome comments that my viewers put in the comments section. So I ask you to continue the same. Put comments in the comments section. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe and share the video. Well, that's all I have for this one. I look forward to talking about non-competes with you on the next one. Until next time, on Law Talk with Mr. Mig.